And now here's your host, Deborah Duncan.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Great Day Houston. Thank you very much. We're starting the show today with a fundamental skill that many of us take for granted. Imagine going through life without being able to read or write. 1 in 5 Houston adults are functionally illiterate. That means they don't have the reading and writing skills to manage a job or get through everyday tasks. There are several reasons this can happen, ranging from dyslexia to simply never having access to the right education. My first guest had a great cheerleader in his corner when he struggled with reading as a child, and today he's giving back by heading up the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation. Please welcome Neil Bush to the show, along with the founder of a program that encourages kids to read, Melissa Williams with Read 30. Good morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right. Neil, we have talked about many times how, you were that kid who kind of was falling between the cracks because you couldn't read because of undiagnosed dyslexia at the time.
Right, exactly.
And just kind of how that made you feel in school, and had there not been someone who was able to say, aha, here's the issue and here's how we have to change this, because he's not dumb. He's smart. He's a smart kid. He just learns differently.
Yeah, no, I struggled as a reader. I was dyslexic before the word dyslexia really entered into the jargon. My mom was the loving, supportive Barbara Bush that kind of kept my confidence high and that kind of thing. She discovered that I couldn't read sometime either 2nd or 3rd grade when there was a reading circle at school. The book was being passed from kid to kid, got to me, and I couldn't read any of the words. And the kid to my right was helping, the kid to my left helped, the teacher helped, everybody intervened.
That happened with my son, who also has dyslexia,
yeah,
but he just made up some lines. And everyone's like, is that how that book goes? He just made it up.
I mean, my plight is awful because I realize that if you can't read, it's very hard. You can't succeed in school.
Right.
You just can't succeed in school.
Right. And that affects you so many other ways. Obviously,
confidence and all kinds of issues that drag you down as a human being. So if you have a support system, then you have a hope of surviving. And ultimately, you get to make choices. Eventually, you get to make choices. I was able to choose a path of education. I got a master's in business, and before that, studied political science. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, surprise, because there was a teacher who actually said to your mom that don't expect him to even graduate from school.
Yeah, she was told I shouldn't expect to get into college, which was heartbreaking for a mom. But I found a path of interest and pursued it. And my reading, I struggled as a reader, but I managed to struggle through it. I worked harder than most kids. And so the point is, if you have a passion around something, if you find something you have interest in, you can overcome the obstacles created by reading. Yeah. What's worse to me, though, Deborah, isn't Neil and those that are born with learning disabilities where you mix up letters.
Right.
It's the kids that are born in poverty that don't have access to words, to books. They enter kindergarten ill-prepared to learn. They're struggling to get through 3rd grade.
Parents can't even help them.
The parents can't help them. The support systems aren't there, and so they don't have any kind of a cult. My mother read to me as a kid. Yeah. These poor kids don't have any moms that read to them, and so they enter school already behind the 8 ball. They fail 3rd grade reading, and they're destined to get into the juvenile delinquency system. And not every one of these kids fall through the cracks. But we've got to do something in our community, and there are great programs like Melissa's program, and there are so many other programs that are teaching kids to read, to write, to communicate, to realize their fullest God-given potential.
Because we have a lot of kids who are falling through the cracks because of that. We look at 40 to 50% dropout rate in school, and a lot of that is because of those issues that we just have not been able to address. Melissa, when I first met you, I remember that was early on with my son in 1st and 2nd grade when he hated reading. He would see a book and he would run and sit in a corner and face the wall and cry. He would sob because he hated it. And what you came up with was a brilliant idea, and you said, what does he love? And you remember what I said?
Yes, he loves lizards. Yeah. So I gave you the Iggy the Iguana series.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he was like, then it became, he didn't have a reading task. He was playing with lizards when he was reading the book.
Yes, and there's that interest. And I love that we're talking about passion, because that's what it's really all about for these kids. When they do find a book that they love, they start to dive into the book, and sometimes the movie as well. I want to bring that up, where they can see the relationship and character development and the way authors create these stories. And it is very relevant. And then with literacy, writers, they need to be readers first. But once they develop that love, they start to try the writing element of literacy, and that's when their confidence just soars, when they realize the things that authors do in books, they can do those things too.
I love getting a phone call from the teacher the other day who said, well, he was reading in class, and first of all, he was reading in class, right? She goes, then he wouldn't stop. And then when we got home, and then he actually the other day wrote his own book. He goes, Mom, I wrote a book. I'm like, yes. All right, so how did you start Read 3.0? What were you noticing was the deficit in our community?
So going in and out of the schools as an author myself, all of the kids, they would get really excited about seeing that the Iggy the Iguana series for me started with my own pet iguana I had when I was 8. So there's that relationship all of a sudden. And then they start to think, well, maybe I can write books about my pets. Then how can I be a published author? And is this something you can only do when you're an adult? And I kept hearing this over and over again. So I thought, why not have a literacy organization that focuses on reading, but also writing and publish these kids' stories and give them these opportunities.
And it is amazing, some of the stories. I know you have the poetry contest as well. It's amazing what some of these kids are writing. It's stuff that is as good or better than a lot of adults are writing.
I agree.
All right, we have some students with us today who had their works published, and we have Chloe, Kurt, and Alyssa. So Chloe, tell me what it's been like to be part of this program for you.
It's been amazing. Like, it's awesome to get to know that you get to do something that helps others and inspires others to be a better version of themselves.
And then Kurt, you know, it's one thing to be handed books to read in class. We all had our required reading. I don't know if they do this Lord of the Flies anymore, stuff like that, you know. All right, but it's another thing to actually create a story from the ground up.
Yes, it's a thing that you see everywhere, and you're thinking that's impossible because that's what the media tells you. But then you find out that it's something you actually can do.
Yeah. Okay, when you say the media, you don't mean Great Day, though. You don't mean, not us. Okay. And Alyssa, what does writing do for you? Because I think it's just one of those other creative outlets that sometimes we overlook.
Writing sort of allows you to sort of grow up in your own way, and it allows you to teach others what you've learned and have the experiences you've had. And it's really cool to sort of grow up in a story.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and then to look back at that and see where you were. It's almost like, you know, the diary that's kind of published, and you see how you've grown over the years. You guys have a luncheon coming up, iWRITE luncheon and book signing. So what can we expect at that?
So we love our luncheon because we get to bring in all of the kids that we've published that year. And this year we have 68 kids, and some of those are illustrators as well, because the books we have to have front cover illustrations. So they're a part of the program. We have our Editor's Choice recipients read their work on the mic. We're going to be giving away our first scholarship this year, so we're very excited about that.
Yep, and of course our honorees.
And Neil and his wife Maria Bush, they're honorees, and we are just so excited to have their organization a part of everything that we do, because now we're waking up Houston. Literacy is a big deal here, and an organization like Read 3.0, we can really grow and shine when we have the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation at our support.
Because you look at the progress that the city is making, the one thing that can unravel it is if you have a population that just can't function in literacy. And I just got to say to you, how sweet that, you know, you have your own organization, the Barbara Bush Houston Literacy Foundation, but you're reaching out to help another foundation as well.
Our mission is to try to build capacity for all these great organizations. I have a vision for Melissa's organization that it's going to have a greater impact on the city of Houston, on low-income kids, not only helping them develop a passion for reading, but the critical skill of writing. There aren't too many organizations, and I don't know of any other organizations really focused on the writing component of it, and that's just really important for life success as well. If you're going to get a job, you're going to need to be able to write stuff, and to be able to bring out this passion in writing and storytelling that we heard from these kids is just a wonderful thing. Melissa's group also has local authors go to schools, you know, to help brighten up, you know, kind of waking up kids to the idea that you can be an author too. It's just a fabulous organization. So our mission is to help raise capacity by more funds. If you want to help support this organization, give money for this lunch. Come see us and participate generously so she can expand her program.
And I can't let you go without asking how the family's doing.
Everybody's great, thank you. Mom and Dad are back from their Maine. They go to Maine 5 months or 6 months out of the year.
During the hottest months?
During the hottest months. They're great. Dad threw out the first pitch in the Keuchel game for the Astros when they were in the World Series hunt. They're both doing really, really well, and you know, everybody. Jeff still is enjoying his life.
Yeah, at the same time, yeah, in the middle of a campaign, and George is enjoying his.
George is great.
Yeah, George, been there, done that. Oh,
George has the best life of all of us.
Playing golf and
painting and giving speeches. You know, he just has a great time. I take that back. I'm the most blessed of all the Bushes. I live across the street from my parents here in Houston. I'm passionate about promoting service and volunteerism with Points of Light, and I'm just.
And you pass that on to your son as well. Pierce is all your children actually involved. Yeah.
But the passion around the literacy, addressing the literacy crisis, is what helps me jump out of bed every day, because it's a human rights issue. It's a crisis in our community that we allow these kids not to realize their fullest potential.
Actually see what difference you make in someone's life. It's one of those things when, you know, we have a couple of people on the show who started as adults reading, and to see their whole life just kind of unfold in front of them, you know, and they can kind of come out of the shadows and be self-sufficient in a whole bit. So thank you, too, very, very much.
Thank you.
The 6th annual iWRITE Luncheon and Book Signing is Saturday, November 14th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Hilton Americas Hotel. For more information, log on to read30.org, and I'll be there as your lovely mistress of ceremonies. All right, after the break, we're going to tame Halloween hair that'll make you scream.